how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert, covering the woke shutdown over at colleges. Donors are canceling woke colleges over their terrible stance on the Israel-Hamas war. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. This is coming from the Free Press for the Free People. Can a donor revolt save American universities? After universities, both sides, the slaughter of Jews, Bill Ackman, Jon Huntsman, and others are saying the buck stops here. For years, even though the far left never had real political power, social and cultural power were all theirs. Fortune 500 CEOs bent the knee, literally, during the summer of 2020. NPR aired breathless segments with academics who defended looting or argued for the destruction of the nuclear family. The more extreme you were, the more attention you got. So when Hamas brutally murdered babies, raped women, and took the disabled as hostages, and even Holocaust victims, it was business as usual, at least on America's college campuses. Silence from the university's cruel and maximalist rhetoric from left-wing student groups. But then something strange happened. People started to say no. It all began with Bill Ackman, the hedge fund billionaire who has been doom-scrolling since news of the attacks first broke. On Tuesday, he came across an open letter signed by over 30 student groups from Harvard, his alma mater, which blamed Israelis for their own murders. Quote, "We, the undersigned student organizations, hold the Israeli regime entirely responsible for all unfolding violence," the Harvard student statement read. The apartheid regime is the only one to blame. Ackman and his friends exchanged incredulous texts. That kind of a statement, you could say, well, you know, they were just students. They kind of don't know what they're saying. It was the heat of the moment. You can't say things like that because you're inviting even more violence, and of course, it's beyond disrespectful to the victims of the terrorist attacks. And there were many, many victims, with over 1,300 people killed and hundreds of people held hostage by terrorists. Quote, "I have been asked by a number of CEOs if Harvard would release a list of the members of each of the Harvard organizations that have issued the letter assigning sole responsibility for Hamas's heinous acts to Israel, so as to ensure that none of us inadvertently hire any of their members." Ackman tweeted, quote, "If in fact their members support the letter they have released, the names of the signatories should be made public so their views are publicly known." A dozen CEOs quickly joined Ackman. A few hours later, Raina Workman, the president of NYU Student Bar Association, learned that Winston & Strawn, the corporate law firm that had offered her a six-figure job, rescinded its offer. Not long after, the Bar Association removed her as president. This was the new cost of publicly supporting Hamas, as Workman had done in an email sent to the entire law school. Quote, "Hi y'all," Workman wrote in a newsletter that should have been about study breaks and internship opportunities. Quote, "I want to express, first and foremost, my unwavering and absolute solidarity with Palestinians." Workman went on to say that, quote, "Israel bears full responsibility for this tremendous loss of life. This before the charred bodies were even in the ground. While schools like Northwestern and Stanford may not have had the moral clarity to condemn Hamas, Playboy cut ties with the adult film star Mia Khalifa for cheerleading the massacres in Israel. Journalists, yes, journalists who wouldn't have dared cross the party line suddenly broke hard. Even TMZ got in on the game. NPR hosts and Los Angeles Times reporters Misha Uref and Adam Elmarek, who assumed they would always be on the right side of history, were relegated to hysterical arguments about whether murdered babies were or were not decapitated. I remember that argument going around. Back at Harvard, all of those students who hadn't thought twice about putting their names on a pro-murder statement were in a blind panic. Some tried to explain away their participation. Before long, not a single public signatory to the original statement remained. There's more than a little schadenfreude in watching the would-be corporate lawyers realize that they do not, in fact, enjoy the mandate of heaven. All it took was a single rescinded job offer to reveal America's pitchfork-wielding socialists as the careerist weasels they always are. Because it's easy to attack people when there are no consequences. It's easy to side on any side that's popular for virtue signaling when there's no cost to you when things don't work out. For years now, liberals and centrists have been mutely seething. Quote, discussions about these issues have been happening quietly, Ackman said. Problems related to the woke movement, the impact on college campuses, have been bemoaned but not acted upon. People didn't speak out publicly. Of course, we all know that feeling. The hushed whispers as two liberal acquaintances suss each other out, discovering that neither quite believes that Nadelmen should compete in athletics against women, that not all cops are bad. Quote, you'd see some ridiculous statement and you'd laugh it off, Ackman explained. But now people are dying. People are being raped. People are being mass murdered. Liberals and centrists seem to have paid attention to conservative boycotts of Bud Light and Target. Then came the scandals surrounding Ibram Kendi's anti-racism center at Boston University. Having burned through over $20 million, he now faces an inquiry from the university. Kendi's disgrace cracked the window, and the horrific responses to the Hamas attacks opened the door. And yet it is only now, after all the historic and outraged statements about Me Too and BLM and Ukraine and Roe versus Wade, that universities are discovering the virtue of institutional neutrality. Quote, our university embraces a commitment of free expression, Harvard President Claudine Gay said of the pro-Hamas protests on campus. Quote, that commitment extends to even views that many of us find objectionable, even outrageous. This is, to put it gently, a newfound commitment. Just 4 years ago, the institution she runs sided with the illiberal mob and opened an investigation into a law school dean after he joined Harvey Weinstein's legal defense. Quote, I do not foresee that I will be issuing statements on political, geopolitical, or social issues that do not directly impact the core mission of our university, Northwestern President Michael Schill wrote in a public message to senior university leadership. Quote, in recent years, many universities have gotten into the habit of issuing frequent statements about news events, read Stanford's long-delayed statement. This creates a number of difficulties. It can enmesh universities in politics and create a sense of institutional orthodoxy that chills academic freedom. Wow, what strange timing. For years, the woke left has incessantly appealed to these sorts of authorities to take strident positions on the, quote, current thing and to squelch dissent of anyone who disagreed. The same people who denounced you as a conspiracy theorist for thinking that COVID might have come from a lab, who have framed and memed every issue, no matter how tangential, through the lens of racial essentialism, including murdered Israeli civilians as, quote, settler colonialists, can never be innocent, are claiming they are the victims now. Don't let them claim to be victims, because when the furor dies down, Raina Workman and her fellow travelers will no doubt find suitably remunerative positions. Already the so-called blacklist is being walked back, as perhaps it should be. We need neutral institutions, and the silence of Harvard or Northwestern or Stanford matters only insofar as how vocal they've been about other issues. In what world should a student body president or university administrator or HR lady or PR flack set the terms of our political discourse? Maybe, just maybe, a new equilibrium can be reached. Maybe we can agree that political litmus tests for employment are bad, that requiring DEI statements is bad, that not every organization and every individual needs to comment on every political issue. Until then, Penn offers an example of what a turning point might look like. Mike Rowan, the chair of the board of overseers at Wharton, who in 2018 donated $50 million to the business school, called for donors to close their checkbooks until the university's leadership changes. Vahan Gurian, a member of Penn's board of trustees, resigned. He cited the school's broken moral compass. The Huntsman family, for whom the main building in Wharton is named, described their alma mater as unrecognizable and announced they would close its checkbook on all future giving to Penn. Quote, the university's silence in the face of reprehensible and historic Hamas evil against the people of Israel, when the only response should be outright condemnation, is a new low, the family said in a statement. Quote, none of these institutions are solvent without the support of their alumni, Ackman said. of the brewing donor revolt. Perhaps this is the beginning of a catalyst for change. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.